Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today, I am going to be doing a tropical update on specifically the newly designated Invest 93L, the 92L. I'm pretty sure. I'll find out in a second. But also, later in the video, at the very end, a potential Hawaii, very likely Hawaii hurricane or tropical storm threat, but specifically these Atlantic systems. So without further ado, let's get started. So yeah, this is the satellite imagery for, Invest 92L in the far eastern Atlantic. Very disorganized right now, but we do expect rapid organization within the next week and formation within the next week, within the next 4 to 5 days. If we look here, we do see that it has a high chance of forming, 80% in the next week. We also have Invest 93L in the subtropics with a 40% chance of forming, so that risk has gone up. And then this newly designated area of interest 3, which is a 20% chance of formation. So really, if we go to the tropical weather outlook, we're going to Invest 92L is the biggest risk. We see that they're 700 miles southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands, and it will likely form within the next couple days. A tropical depression is likely to form, and I do expect a tropical storm. 60% within the next 48 hours and 80% within the next 7 days. So, rapid organization, again, within the next 4 to 5 days, like I said, but formation is possible within the next 2 to 3 days. And then in the central subtropical Atlantic, Invest 93L, subtropical depression or tropical depression or storm could form in the next day or two. And that's around a 40%. And then that there's a small chance of something forming in the next 2 to 7 days within the eastern tropical Atlantic. So, but we'll see what happens with that. But the main thing here is Invest 92L. And in addition, we have two areas of interest in the Eastern Pacific. And sorry, that's the Atlantic again. But in the Eastern Pacific, Invest 93E or C is the main thing. And tropical depression or storm is expected to form. And interest in the Hawaiian Islands should closely monitor. That's a 90% chance in the next 48 hours. And then Invest 99E. It could is 70% chance of formation, but that is not going to be any land risk. But we're going to mainly focus on the Atlantic areas of interest, specifically 92L, but then we'll also go to that Central Pacific one at the end. As you see here, we even have some key messages where potential storm surge, wind, and rainfall impacts are expected for the Hawaiian Islands. But anyway, let's go to Invest 92L. There we go. We do see here that it is currently 30 miles an hour, moving west at 60 miles an hour, and 1,011 millibars. If we go to the models here, we do see that there's definitely been a western trend. Most of them showed a recurvature out to sea, but there is going to be some ridging, stronger than expected, and a weaker trough than expected. That originally was going to sweep the system out to sea, it seems, but now it seems that it's not going to be the case. As we can see here, a lot of these models take it towards the leeward islands, but also even towards Puerto Rico. Now, the icon is going with the more north/eastern solution, but these models have definitely tracked west over the next past few days. And we can look at that track density on the ensembles. These are the GEFS. We do see somewhere on the northern Leeward Islands is going to be the biggest land impact. And then we have the widespread outside of that, anywhere from South America to north of the Bahamas. But that is very uncertain. And also it is important to say that while there could be some land impacts for maybe, say, the Leeward Islands, past that, there is expected to be a very unfavorable conditions, which is going to limit any further impacts of the system, and it will be pretty disorganized and dead by then. And the EPS is showing much more south than the GEFS ensembles, central to southern Leeward Islands, but such is the case where there could be some, again, tropical storm impacts or tropical depression impacts. It's very, very early to tell, but past that, it seems very unlikely. So don't trust anything about like some crazy East Coast, Gulf Coast impacts. Not going to happen. Very unlikely, though there could be some surf impacts, obviously. If we go to the icon, again, more northern scenario, as we do see here, but that could be a bigger Puerto Rico risk if the system can hold itself together. But other than that, nothing too crazy past the Leeward Island and Puerto Rico area. The ECMWF AI ensembles, we do see, again, the central Leeward Islands. And this weird Google ensemble is showing pretty similar to what the ECMWF is showing. If we look at their MSLP, we do see how there's, again, a pretty weak system around 1,011 millibars. So that could probably a tropical depression, but that could also be a tropical storm, though we do expect weakening. Past the strengthening, past 3 to 4 days, we do expect weakening as it approaches land and the East Coast. And if we go to the forecast loop here, we can see how that model track does develop. So again, we do see high density of sub 1,010 millibars there, but then they start to weaken and become more uncertain as we go past that. But definitely a potential rain risk for the parts of the Eastern Caribbean. And then as you get towards the Western Caribbean and the United States, that risk significantly drops off. Again, we can see here with all the ensembles put together, we can see how the biggest overall, between all the models, the biggest risk is going to be on the central to northern Leeward Islands and even into Puerto Rico. And then we do see a notable amount of ensembles going up the East Coast north, but that is, again, significantly dropped off. Like the Icon is, for example, is one of the models going more towards, say, north of Puerto Rico and more of a recurvature, but that, again, with extra ridging in models recently, which I'll show you later, it has gone more towards a straight shot to the Caribbean. But yeah, overall, the northern Leeward Islands at the moment are favored. If we look at the trend here, we do see the big shift. We see the white track is the older track. We do see a recurvature track past the Leeward Islands and Puerto Rico, like out to sea. But now it is more towards the actual Leeward Islands and into the Caribbean. So, like I've been saying, so that could actually increase land risks. But overall, for the United States and Western Caribbean, the low risk is pretty much the same. Same thing here with the Grand Ensemble, the Leeward Islands, and potential surf risks for the United States, but other than that, nothing much. And again, the trend has trended south, though we do see some curvature as you get towards the Bahamas. If we look in the ships, they are still forecasting some type of curvature, but the maximum winds are going to be sub-hurricane strength. So a strong tropical storm, though. So that could definitely bring some impacts to, say, San Martin, Puerto Rico, Antigua, and Barbuda. But other than that, nothing crazy there. But I do expect the ship model to trend back south. Now, again, we see all these ensembles going all towards, the Bahamas and stuff, but it really seems unlikely that they're going to make it that far. As you can see, if we look to the ECMWF tropical storm probability runs, we do see that as you get towards the Bahamas and the United States, the risk for any impacts there are significantly lower. If we look at the tropical depression, it is more plausible. We do see, again, some ensembles showing a very weak low in that area. That could definitely be a tropical depression or extratropical depression, but again, that's below the 20% chance. But a bigger risk, tropical storm risk and impacts, which would prompt warnings, is definitely still there for the Leeward Islands, where the consensus of models are, where we have over a 50% chance for some areas, according to the European model. And then, of course, in the top right there, you do see Invest 93L, which isn't going to be a land impact risk, but the chances for development for that have definitely increased over the past few days. And if we go to the GEFS risk, again, GEFS and the GEFS ensembles are going for a weaker system and a more northern areas. You see no crazy risk for tropical storm impacts there from Invest 92L, though tropical depression impacts for the central Leeward Islands are possible. So the European model is definitely trending stronger than the GFS. And if we go to the CMC Canadian model, nothing too crazy there, but the CMC is not as accurate and they trend to be on the lower side. If we look at the spaghetti models from the ATCF, we're not going to look at the ensembles here as we saw that on this website. So, but I'm going to go to the overall ATCF guidance. We do see, again, the Leeward Islands towards Haiti and the Dominican Republic is the new consensus. That we do have some strays there, still going more north. And heck of it, I'll show you, again, pretty similar consensus from the ECMWF and GFS. And then, of course, if we go back and look at Invest 93L, as you can see, that's going to go around the Azores and not really affect anything, just to show you that real quick. But again, Invest 92L, definitely an Eastern Caribbean threat. And if we go into the pressure impact risk, like the forecast, we do see that most models show this staying above 1,010 millibars. But as we get into Sunday, some show it getting below that. But overall, this will likely stay above 1,010 millibars, which just shows how this is going to stay a pretty, I don't want to say weak system, like, because it's still going to be pretty organized, but definitely not very intense, again, due to shear, dust, and stuff, which I'll show in a second. And again, if we look at the wind forecast, we do see, again, most models show this becoming a tropical storm, which, again, could impact the Eastern Caribbean, and even some strays show it becoming a Category 1 hurricane. But again, as you get much more west, most of these models drop off and show a significant weakening towards a tropical depression. Next, and we can see why we have had a more Caribbean-centered track recently, and why the recurvatures are not as prominent in the model. So why we've had more of a Western track. We see here, if we look in the, you can't really see it because the GFS doesn't show a very strong system, but you do see around right here, this system right there. Sorry, I had to zoom in there. I don't have a pen on this. But we do see that strong ridging over the Atlantic is what's preventing that recurvature. You see much above average. And originally there was going to be a trough round up near Newfoundland and stuff that was going to sweep it away, but it will not be as strong or in time to cause any major things. And we can see that here with the MSLP anomaly. Go to AT&T. We see, again, we do have that low, but the ridging is going to persist just long enough, and the trough won't be there in time to sweep this out to sea. If we go into the ECMWF, pretty similar situation. There's going to be ridging building over the Atlantic, and this system, that trough, will not be able to sweep it out to sea. Though, with the area of interest behind it, if we go to the area of interest behind it, it didn't show it in the 12Z, but if we go to the 18Z, where it does show the area of interest 3, that you see as it starts to recurve out to sea, that trough could take advantage of the weakening in the ridge and sweep that other system out to sea. But in terms of Indus 92L, we're not really going to see that happening. If we go to the icon, again, shows a more northern track, and the reason is, again, there's a weakening of ridging in that trough, as you see there. And if I think you might be able to see, yeah, if we go to 500 MB height, we do see pretty strong ridging until the Leeward Islands, and then you see a weakening as that trough comes through, and that is what allows it to sweep out to sea. Now, it's kind of harder to see because the icon doesn't have an MSLP anomaly parameter, but yeah. Now, what's going to be preventing a lot of this strengthening from the system is the dust, as we see strong amounts of Saharan dust around the Leeward Islands, and then also near the Cabo Verde Islands where this system is, and that's just going to follow it as it travels across the main development region, which is, again, going to prevent large strengthening, which is why we see a weakening past after the next couple of days. And we see that here, like, the circulation is there, but dust is going to be getting into the center of it, which is going to prevent strengthening. If we go and look at the storm, we do see the HWRF, or the HAFSA, is showing a pretty organized circulation before it, again, significantly weakens and gets disorganized traveling in the Caribbean. If we look in the wind speeds, we do see the HAFSA does show this becoming around a tropical storm with 46 miles an hour around a little less than 2 days from now. And then it not rapidly, but it is able to get into a more favorable environment. If we go back to the dust here, around a little under 3 days from now, it's before getting into the dust closer to the Caribbean. It is going to be in a more favorable environment, and that's going to help it strengthen more. We see it gets towards 60 miles an hour and then drops back down to 40. But as it interacts with the Leeward Islands, we do see 48, 42 miles an hour, and because Obviously, there is a very mountainous Caribbean terrain, but in the coasts of the Leeward Islands and in much of those areas, because again, they're small islands, we definitely could see tropical storm conditions. If we look in the wind gusts, again, tropical storm gusts are possible for those areas, and we'll have to see what happens with that. If we go to the HAFSB, it is a very similar story. We do see tropical storm strength being reached in a little under 2 days, and then that could continue with stronger strengthening as it encounters less dust, and around 3 days, going up to 60 miles an hour and impacting the Leeward Islands with tropical storm force conditions. And finally, the HWRF. Now, the HWRF, it seems, does not have this on there. So, and what about the HMOD? Neither does HMOD. So those two models do not have this on here. Now, I just want to show you quickly 93L. Again, it's just going to be encountering subtropical unfavorability. So, again, quick tropical storm could form in the subtropics within the Invest 93L. Nothing too crazy, but clearly we do definitely have an Eastern Caribbean threat. Also, I just want to show you the shear. Let's go to this app real quick. This is a very good app, but let's go to the atmosphere vorticity and shear. We go to the wind shear. Again, very unfavorable shear in much of the main development region, especially now if we look at, now this doesn't show the full main development region. If we look out east, we do see more unfavorable shear, but this is definitely also much more likely to weaken if it travels on a more northern track due to the shear in the northern Caribbean and at, like, say, the Bahamas latitude. That's going to be much more unfavorable. So if it actually keeps that middle to southern Caribbean track, it could encounter less shear, but the Saharan dust is going to really be a problem for it. And also, real quickly, that Eastern Pacific system, the Hawaii system is going to be a definite risk because we do see much less wind shear for that Hawaii system to encounter Invest 93C. So we're going to be watching that. And also, quickly, we're going to go to the steering layer analysis, where we do see strong ridging, which is going to impact and stop that system from turning out to sea. And actually, it's better if we go to 500 MB. Again, stronger ridging is going to prevent the system from turning out to sea. But yeah, anyway, we're going to get rid of that. So yeah, definitely a very notable system, Invest 92L. Going to be a notable risk to the Eastern Caribbean, and then we'll watch for any impacts past that, though. U.S. impacts seem to be unlikely. And actually, real quick, if we go to the Wave Watch, and we're going to go to the Atlantic, we're going to go to AT&T. We do see that while the system, if it takes a more northerly track, it could impact the eastern Bahamas with some heightened waves of up to, say, 7 feet. Though, again, there doesn't seem to be a huge swell risk for those systems. So just gonna say that. As you see here, we go. Look at the swell. The swells pretty much die down once it gets to the Bahamas. So no major U.S. risk, but, something could change, and we're going to keep watching it. And also, real quick, I just want to go to Invest 93C. Definitely very disorganized right now. But if we look there, it's clearly very close to the Bahamas, a notable risk. If we go to Invest 93C, the ensembles show it tracking right through Hawaii. We look through the models. Pretty much every model shows it coming right through Hawaii, and this is a U.S. state, so I'm going to show it. Again, track density right through Hawaii. Super ensemble right through Hawaii. If we look at the trend, it definitely has trended much more north. It was originally going to go much more south 2 days ago, not really be a threat to Hawaii, but now it seems like it's going to go right through Hawaii, which definitely we have to watch. The ship's model doesn't really show anything for it, but yeah. And if we go to the U.S. regions, can we go to Hawaii? Okay, I don't think I can show y'all here, but if we go to the weather models, HAFSA, we do see that this could impact Hawaii, the Hawaiian Islands, easily with tropical storm conditions, especially the smaller islands on the northern side of the Big Island, but we see a direct hit there, and the winds seem to be lopsided to the north. But the majority of the Hawaiian Islands could be seeing tropical storm for sustained winds of 39 miles an hour or higher. And if we go to HAFSA, oh wait, that's what I was just on. HAFSB, again, it shows a little more organized and uniform wind field, but again, most of the islands are going to still be receiving tropical storm force sustained winds, and the HWRF, which does have something for this system, shows actually hurricane force winds for parts of the island. Most of the islands receiving tropical storm force winds. So yeah, that's going to be definitely something to watch. Again, going to the tracks for Invest 93C, we do see pretty much all the ensembles taking it right through or near Hawaii. If we look at their pressure for the system for Invest 93C, most of we see potentially sub 1,000 millibars, and then if we go to tropical cyclone wind, we do see a very good chance for this to become a hurricane. A lot of these even show Category 2 hurricanes, so definitely going to be watching out for that, and this could be a much longer lasting system. But overall, Invest 92L is definitely going to be a threat to the Caribbean. This will be a threat to Hawaii, and we're going to be watching all of these, and I'll also be watching the Area of Interest 3 as we get closer in time to that's potential formation and what that could entail. But I'll make a video soon in a couple days, hopefully, and I hope you all enjoy this video. Let me know if y'all have any questions. Please leave them in the comments, and have a great night, y'all.